to the next dialogue or episode with another one of my PhD colleagues from this time from Zimbabwe. Dr. Daud Shumba is joining us from Harare. So just a quick introduction of Dr. Daud. He's a seasoned business leader and social innovator with over 30 years of experience in various sectors. He's also, he runs a lot of businesses. He holds an executive position, but he's also the co-founder of something which the concept we are going to introduce today is what we call the Integral Kumusha. So the social innovation that he brought about aims to transform rural homesteads into sustainable and productive units that can end hunger, poverty, and marginalization of rural people. He's also the creator of Nhakanomics, an economic model that is based on Ubuntu and heritage, and that combines indigenous cultural practices with relevant external knowledge to create regenerative local economies for Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world. Some heavy terminology here, but welcome, Daud. I'm honored to host you. You are an amazing example of how our PhD, how it has literally transformed not just us, but you are transforming not your community, you are becoming a rage in Zimbabwe. You know, on a governmental level, you're sort of after person. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anika. It's just a pleasure to meet you once again and to dialogue and converse over this transformation journey.
Yes, thank you. So just on a lighter note, let's start with why are you called Shumba? My audience would know.
Shumba is my totem, and that's a Shona word for lion. So my totem is a lion. So I am of the Shumba clan. You know, these totems, they go with clans. So yeah, that's how I derived the name Shumba.
Thank you. And I remember you gave me a totem as well, Moyo.
I gave you Moyo, which is a heart. And you know, heart is to do with love, is to do with compassion, is to do with, you know, life. You can't do anything without a heart. And those are descriptors that I saw on you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I just tell everybody, I'm so proud of it. Right. So let's get down to business. Your transformation journey, our PhD as a transformation journey. So tell us about starting from the Integral Kumusha. There is, I know, a spiritual relevance to Musha in Shona language. I remember when I visited your Kumusha, I still remember seeing the graves of your ancestors there. And I asked you, and you said there is, the legacy and there is a spiritual relevance to it. And I was so touched by it because can you tell us this, just briefly, the spiritual relevance of Kumusha or Musha?
Oh, yeah. You know, Kumusha or rural homestead for us is very important because that's where we connect with life. That's how we connect to our ancestors. That's how we connect that's where we are grounded in the soil. And I'll give you a background. You know, in the traditional cultural African practice, when a child is born, the umbilical cord is actually buried in the ground, which shows the connection between that person and that land and the soil. That's why Kumusha has a lot of meaning and importance to us and to me as well. And Kumusha, that's where our ancestors lie. I was speaking last Saturday when we hosted a group of about 100 churchmen who visited the Kumusha, that we are connected through the soil. And this connection goes beyond just who we are, but over and above that, that is our life. And we would like to transform these Kumushas or the rural homesteads into opportunities for wealth creation and creating great legacy for current and future generations.
Yes. So I know and I remember that your whole PhD thesis was on this, and you that is the social innovation you brought about. Your research and transformation journey was basically the regeneration of rural communities. You took literally the holistic and integrated approach that the Transform PhD professors, our professors Ronnie Lessam and Alexander Schiffer, and you incorporated the holistic approach of nature, culture, technology, and enterprise. So you are basically, you created, like what we know in the oikos in Greek terminology,
Yes.
which was also in ancient time. That was the original economy, and it was built on the household trade, right? And you brought the alternative from an indigenous Shona perspective. So I would actually call you a post-developmental practitioner. That yes, you also have theory that supports this, which was your PhD, but you practically have done so much about it, and not just you. So your PhD also, sorry, I'm not referring too much to PhD, but I think the distinction of this PhD is that your PhD was done with your community and also your life partner, your wife, Christina. I should mention her because I met her at your Kumusha, and she looks after the Kumusha whilst you do your business. And your business actually supports all of the activities you do in your home village, your village, native village, Buhera. Which is, I think it's a brilliant example of what my PhD was also about, on community mobilization and self-sufficiency, that communities can become self-sufficient, but you have to mobilize them. And you brought that indigenous framework and model, that how can we mobilize communities. You and I believe in that we have to work with their native beliefs and cultures and the culture they follow. And I've actually seen you in action in Buhera, and I still remember sitting on the floor with the chief of your village, and I was so inspired that there could be a village chief who's just sitting with us on the floor and so humble. Sorry, I should just stop talking, but I'm quite excited about. I want people to really understand, the extent of and the practicality of your model. And in that, I think we should also talk about the integral research methodology, because that, can you briefly tell us how did that help you? In designing, not designing, bringing out, which was actually already in the ground, as we say, grounding and then emerged. So how did the integral methodology, you think, which is quite distinctive, really helped you in all this?
Thank you very much, Anika, once again. And I'd like to try and put this in a very simplistic approach so that people can understand. The integral approach is very practical, and the terminology may be difficult to understand initially, but when you get used to them, they become very, very, very handy, very understandable, very practical, and a source of community and social change, which is very difficult to implement using other methods. The reason why I say that they are holistic, they cover all the key areas of life. And this has been an exciting journey for me on this transformation journey. I have looked at it more than just a PhD, but more of a community, an individual and societal transformation journey. And I will explain to you later why I look at all these areas as part of the transformation that has taken place. But just going back to the integral approach that I leveraged on during this research journey as I evolved, and we evolved as a community, and having my wife as the co-founder of what we now term the Integral Kumusha. As I said, Kumusha means homestead, rural homestead for us. All starting with the grounding in the soil, you know, the focusing on our nature and the community. If in the rural community, rural areas, we live in a communal way, and nature is part and parcel of our life. We cannot divorce ourselves. We are related to nature. With the underlying concept here in the grounding is the relationship that we build among ourselves and with nature. We have to live in harmony with the entire ecosystem. And at the same time, we emerge, or we develop, our development is influenced when we look at our cultural practices and our spiritual practices, and how that is being taken to a new level, which in simple terms, we call that the local global. We move from the local to the local global. We are moving to beyond just our boundaries in terms of culture and spirituality. And we also leverage on science and technology. Science and technology play an important role in the integral way of development. And we use a lot of what is available. Actually, I always want to call it appropriate technology. Technology that does not destroy our environment, the technology that protects, that preserves what we have, but it helps us to be more efficient in what we do, and also to increase productivity. And as we do that, we co-create knowledge. And we've been co-creating knowledge with the community, with my wife, with everyone whom we came in contact with, and also moving into the last stage of our integral approach, which is enterprise and economics. For the Integral Kumusha, this meant, how do we make the Integral Kumusha create wealth for us? And I use the word us, from us as a family, as a household, and us as a community. Brilliant. And I will talk a little bit about that, because this is a departure from the usually understandable concept of capitalism, where we talk
development
of profit.
as well. Yeah.
Yes, development has to give us profit. We have to have profit for ourselves. We have to make as much money as possible. But our definition of success and world creation is how are we profiteering the community? How do we embrace total development so that everyone can be helped to realize not only their potential or their goals, but to ensure that the environment is made conducive for everyone to enjoy the fullness of life. So as we do that, we create an opportunity and a legacy, a great legacy for future generations. Our understanding is that as we live today, we are borrowing from future generations, and we need to create an environment that will make that generation live a better life than we live. In a simple, integral approach without using a lot of jargon, that's how we have deployed this interesting concept of integrally developing our communities and ourselves.
Beautiful. I mean, wise words. And one of the issues, I think, I'm saying issue because when I tell people or I speak to them, they just take it as, because my own PhD was more about conscious evolution and spirituality from an Islamic perspective. So people just take it that it's very esoteric, right? And I keep on telling them that it's very practical. And when we say holistic, as you beautifully described, it comes full circle as we believe in the four worlds of, being, becoming, knowing, and then doing, right? So being is that your own inner or personal calling, you aligned it with your community's or your society's burning issue, which was that I know that 70% of the Zimbabwean are rural, rural population, but then they migrate to cities and they never come back. And, the elders are there. So you were actually tackling a very practical issue, a societal issue, but then you also had your own personal calling, which was about, leaving a legacy for the future generation. So this is so beautiful. But then also we propagate that it shouldn't be just the philosophy or ideation. It should work towards, creating the social innovation, new methodology, new methods of knowledge creation, and also the socio-economic laboratory that you created for your community, not just for yourself. And you have also given a motto of that, the indigenous alternative economic model, which you call Nhakanomics, and you've written a book on that. Yes. So can you please tell us about, in easy words, as you've explained, what is Nhakanomics then?
Nhakanomics is an Ubuntu and heritage-based economic. Nhaka is legacy or inheritance, depends where you look, the perspective you use. And this is an alternative to capitalism, which has for a long time been considered as a universal economic system throughout the world. And where I'm coming from, we are saying my sincere belief is that every society, every community should have its economic system that resonates with the people. And those people can connect. They have been making life and an economic life prior to capitalism. And to throw that life totally throw out the window and take the capitalism as the only way of economic development, I think it's a misnomer which needs to be corrected. And in our view, we have found that Africans, our native indigenous Africans, have had an economic system that is anchored upon how they create an inheritance or a legacy for future generations. Their thinking has been generational thinking all the time, generational. And in the way they have been doing it, they've tried to make sure that almost everyone can create some form of legacy and inheritance for their future generation. In our culture and our tradition, we would not get people starving when the community is there. We will not get people who would call themselves abject poor or extremely poor, because even if someone would lose their breadwinner, say their husband and all that, the community will work to support the widow and the orphans. They become part and parcel of the responsibility for that community, in the understanding that their future and the future generations should not be worse off than them who are widows and orphans. So putting them at a platform that creates some form of legacy, a better legacy for future generations. Wonderful. And we looked at this concept, the way it has been built over the years is, again, in an integral approach where relationships meant a lot. And relationships with, you see, in one way or the other, Africans are connected and related by way of totems and by way of marriages and intermarriages and friendship. Whichever way you look at it, there's so much connection, and yet people still distance themselves from each other because of totems, but connect themselves as a people. So that the issue of relationship is the bedrock of people's livelihoods, and we call relationship, we call that in Shona ukama. Ukama is relationship, and we put so much emphasis. Even when people are fighting, people are told, whatever you do, even when you are very angry, remember, this is your relative. As long as they are from your community and they are African, they are your relatives. Even if you are so angry with them, always leave room for your relationship tomorrow. So that goes to show the power of relationship. And it is this power of relationship which makes people stewards at individual level and collectively. We are stewards of what we have. You know, we are stewards of our traditional norms, but we are also stewards of what our ancestors leave to us, whether inheritance, tangible or intangible. Yes. Whatever legacy we have, we value that, and we are very, very strong in protecting that and making sure that the next generation can actually experience the kind of joy that comes with that stewardship. And just to demonstrate how the stewardship is practiced in the African culture, is it is very easy for, if someone doesn't have a cow, that I can loan them a cow. And while they have that cow, they don't treat it as someone's cow. They treat it as their own cow. And by the time they'll give it back to me, and if it has had cows, I'll give them some of the cows, just not as a thank you, but as a gesture that you were a faithful steward of what I gave you. So that just goes to show an economy that is run on stewardship is stronger than an individualistic capitalistic approach, where if I borrowed you a cow, I would need a cow and the cows and interest on top of that. But we don't charge interest. We actually give back, and so that you also can enjoy your life. What a beautiful way of growing the economy together.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And part of that is how we work as a team.
Yeah, I think that is also the concept of solidarity economy as well. And what you are saying
yes,
can also apply to humanity, not just Africans, that we are all stewards and, we can share our abundance. I mean, this is what you and I have been saying. But now I think your
sure.
government is listening to you. You've been invited, right? By
Yes.
the
Yes, I will
ministers
also
and
talk about that, how I've been working closely and how I've been recognized within political and business circles, and even in the education system.
Mhm.
We'll share about that. And so teamwork for us is we can only go so far as individuals, but
Mhm.
if we move as teams, we can build a stronger economy and we can go even further. And this is shown by the way the communities work together to help each other. Even those who do not even have, say, a plow, people can come and plow for them, help them, make sure that they can also have good yields and good harvests at the end of the year. This just demonstrates the power of teamwork, which we
Mhm.
call NIMBE, working together.
Mm, yeah.
And as we complete the cycle again, it's how we create wealth individually and collectively. Individually, I can actually build a head of cattle for myself. But if there is need in the community, uh, everyone knows that they can come to me and I will help them. So
Yes.
it's not just my wealth that I have created. I have given an opportunity for the entire community to enjoy that. So that's how Nhakanomics can be defined in a paraphrased way.
Mm. And it's not just, again, I will reiterate, it's not just theory you've written, it's in practice
Yes,
as well. And it's been now picked up by the government on a political level that they are
yes,
considering this as an alternative, which is
sure,
actually the indigenous model, and you
yes,
brought this back into the consciousness again,
practice, yeah,
practice and consciousness, and also in that in a similar vein, you are also part of this movement, we call it the regeneration of Africa. You're
yeah,
part of that with Ronnie Lessam and Father
sure,
Anselm Adodo, and with Da Vinci Institute. So you guys are
yes,
also trying to bring this theory, that theory in practice, and now it's the new knowledge creation, as we say, that you and
yes.
others have developed. So briefly tell us about this, because we don't have much time left now. Thank you.
Yes, this new research center that we're talking at, the primary focus is societal transformation. societal transformation, because we have seen that in these individual PhD programs do very little in changing societies, and or even individually. People collect intellectual knowledge, but that is not translated in improving people's lives and livelihoods and transforming communities from poverty to prosperity, which we call P2P.
P2P, yeah.
And yes, and using a methodology where we co-create knowledge together and continue to find how indigenous and exogenous knowledge can be blended together and also be put on the arena of development. So this is a powerful way of transforming communities, and we see this as growing to be a big movement going into the future.
Yes, because the whole world is looking for alternatives now, right?
Yes.
So this should become
Yes.
mainstream now that we have been
Yes.
working on, and we've been, propagating. I know that Transform co-founders, Ronnie Lessam, Alexander Schiffer, and all of us with them, we've been, working on it. And Ronnie has spent about more than 40 years on this. So I
Sure.
think, and also the world is looking for alternative models of knowledge creation. In fact, all these dialogues I'm having with all of you is about bringing about the new, the alternative methods of knowing or knowledge creation that, Father Anselm talks about, nature power, yours as Nhakanomic, and Integral Kumusha as well, which I think is phenomenal. The whole world should be talking about it, not because, it's our community. I think we have all worked on bringing, making explicit, which has been implicit, embedded in our societies, in our native cultures.
For a long time.
For a long time. And we've forgotten, our own traditions. So yours is a beautiful Nhaka, beautiful legacy that you will leave for future generations. And I think Zimbabwe is lucky to have people like you, and we have Chipo, as well.
Yes.
And also, I remember Patient Magodo, I actually examined her thesis as well, PhD thesis. And I was like amazed that, how much knowledge, and not just intellect, the potential African culture and African models have. So thank you.
And I really like Father Dodo's integral healing approach, because now over the years with our Integral Kumusha and Nhakanomics, we have come up with what we call healing the soil, and talking about health from the soil. And we grow what we eat, and we eat what we grow. We are what we eat. So it is so powerful that if we are talking of health, and we're talking of poverty and marginalization, we're talking of hunger, it's all because the soil needs to be healed, needs to be regenerated. We need to create a regenerative local economies that are vibrant and vibrant to transform people's lives. First, to become self-sufficient and help them to process and develop what we now call eco-industrialization, and developing more knowledge through research with colleges, collaborating with communities, learning with communities, bringing to the fore that what we should be knowing and has not been applied or has been brought to the fore.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Daud Shumba. It was
Thank
great.
you. Thank you,
We
Adika.
need
I
more
really
time
appreciate
to
it.
keep talking about this. It was such an interesting dialogue that, it just opens up so many dimensions, and there's still
Yeah.
too much left to be, unpacked and to be said.
Yes.
But maybe in another sitting, because I just keep it short and sweet. Otherwise, if a dialogue drags on, people just lose
Yes.
interest. But I would
Sure.
definitely refer that your work has to be picked up and also applied in
Thank you.
practice. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing for
Thank you. I
Zimbabwe.
greatly appreciate the time to dialogue, to converse, and to share ideas, and in the process, co-create more knowledge.
Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.